There is already a deceased one. Also the fire. The house is destroyed to the ground.
It is 10:30 on a Wednesday evening in Kharkiv. A Russian rocket has just hit a dormitory in the Saltivka district.
Be careful, be careful.
My grandmother is stuck there.
Hold on, don't be afraid.
These are the first shots of a 3-story building after the rocket has hit. The building practically fell apart and a fire immediately broke out. Rescuers began to pull the victims from under the rubble. They were periodically announcing a silence mode in order to hear people who were stuck under debris. In the first minutes, some trapped people were rescued and 3 of them were killed. Then the number of deceased increased to 7 people. Tamara, a resident of the dormitory, is telling how after the missile arrival she managed to get out of the rubble by herself and even helped her neighbor, who due to hearing problems did not hear the explosion. Just boom, and that's all. My neighbor was screaming. He's a little deaf and dumb, so that hit in his ears. I'm saying to him, Vadim, take an axe, there, in the corridor. The doors were wedged, we couldn't see them. There was a solid fog in the house, you couldn't understand where and what happened. Then I hear him screaming, ah! So I started to break the door into the corridor, and I saw that there were no stairs, a fire was already there, while here was a smoke. Then they tried to pull me out of the window. It's good that it was on the first floor. So I kicked the mosquito net and at least I jumped out of it. Tamara bought an apartment in this hostel 4 years ago. She says that mostly elderly people with hearing and speech impairments lived here. Some of them died because of the missile arrival. Well, the deceased are a Granny Hanna, probably a Grandpa Borya, and maybe 3 Simonenko brothers. And everyone here knows each other, even from parallel houses. They hang clothes here. We were saying hi to each other. My husband could make a barbecue in the evening. Sometimes he would treat the elderly people. We could drink to health all together, if there's a holiday, Pascha for example. Well, we all lived amicably somehow. And now what? Volodymyr, who is from a neighboring house, says that he miraculously survived because the windows in the apartment were shattered by a shock wave. Now everything is destroyed there. There is not a single military facility near this building.
We were saved by the fact that there was a wardrobe here. The speakers were standing there. They flew past our heads. We don't know how we got out. It was dark, smoky, fumes. We don't know.
The police and the rescuers managed to disassemble the 2 destroyed floors during the night and the day. 4 survivors were rescued from the rubble. A number of deceased were increasing. According to the preliminary data, it is 15 people. 22 people received wounds of varying severity.
The wounded people were hospitalized in the municipal hospitals by the teams of emergency medical care. According to preliminary information, there may still be people under the rubble. Tentatively, it is 5 people, but the information is being clarified, and the rescuers continue their search operations.
During the debris removal, the police found fragments of the Russian Iskander missile system, which is marked Russia 2020.
It was a hellish night for Kharkiv and the region. It was a missile arrival at the place behind me yesterday in the evening. As you can see, only a residential building which the citizens lived in. It was a fairly significant number of people who were here at the time of the missile arrival. Here we can document the hit of the Iskander missile system. This suggests that apparently they, the Russian invaders, they made some emphasis on this building because the other missile arrivals were made by the anti-aircraft missile system.
Later, the Ministry of Defense of Russia confirmed that it was a target attack on a Kharkiv dormitory, while explaining this attack that they fired at an object where the Ukrainian military were allegedly located. According to the city authorities, the civilians lived in the dormitory. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has reacted to the shelling.
A vile and cynical strike against civilians which has no justification and demonstrates the importance of the aggressor. We won't forgive. We'll take revenge. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Facebook.
Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the president's office, called Russia a terrorist country and compared the Kharkiv attacks with the destruction of Syrian Aleppo.
Kharkiv, 175 days of horror, daily terror, rocket attacks on residential and civilian quarters. Russia wants to turn Kharkiv into Aleppo 2016, Grozny 1996, or Warsaw 1945, and it reveals in blood on the air.
Russia has again attacked the city and the region at dawn on Thursday. 8 more rockets were fired at 5:30. They hit another dormitory and a depot in the Saltivka district. 4 floors collapsed. 4 civilians died under the rubble. Among them was 11-year-old child. 20 people were wounded. I felt broken glass. I put myself together. Somehow, I didn't even get confused. I ran into the second room where was my child. Sorry for the details. I was in my nightgown and barefoot. The child was only in their pants. We ran out into the corridor because of the 2 walls. My brain engaged at once. 2 walls. The third shelling fell on the region. Ukrainian Krasnograd was under the fire. As a result of the anti-aircraft missile system, a dozen private residential buildings were destroyed. 2 people were killed.
There are 2 people killed and 2 more wounded. There was a child among the wounded, who was also born in 2009. She is 12 years old. Her parents have just been killed. She was in the room next to her parents during the explosion. Her parents were killed. She was thrown into the courtyard at the blast wave, so she remained alive but wounded.
Now there are more than 40 people in Kharkiv hospitals. The debris removal of 2 dormitories continues. The victims will be provided with temporary housing. According to the mayor of the city, Russia launched heavy missile strikes on Kharkiv in less than a day.
Kharkiv suffered the most serious losses since the beginning of the war. I'm talking about people, tragic victims, about the wounded people. We are working on this. We are accommodating people. We are providing everything necessary, including clothes. A lot of documents were lost under the rubble. We will restore the documents.
On the fact of the shelling of Kharkiv and Krasnograd, the regional prosecutor's office launched a pre-trial investigation in criminal proceedings on the fact of violation of the laws and customs of war combined with premeditated murder. In Kharkiv and Krasnograd, August 19 was declared a day of mourning for those who were killed as a result of the terrorist attacks. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Natalia Belokudrya, UATV News.